Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about one of the bigger stories that's making the rounds in Vancouver real estate right now. An expectant couple that just purchased a home back in December is being told they might be forced to sell because of age restrictions that were just implemented in their building. So in this video, I'm going to explain what we know about what has been going on. I'm going to explain what might happen as a next step, but more importantly, what you can do to protect yourself so you don't find yourself in this same situation as a home purchaser. Real quick before we get started, if this is your first time to the channel, my name is Hassan. I'm a real estate agent in Vancouver, and I make this educational real estate content to help you in your real estate journey. I also make content to help you make your move in and around Vancouver. So if you're interested in that, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a future video. Okay, so I'm going to give you a brief background of what happened again as we know it. This was reported in a couple of news articles, which I will link in the description box below. But essentially, we had an expectant couple in Maple Ridge viewing townhouses towards the end of last year in the fall, prior to the BC government making a change to rental and age restrictions in BC. If you follow my channel, you know that they removed rental restrictions and they also took away all age restrictions outside of 55 plus. So this couple, they were home shopping, they saw a townhome project that they liked, and at the time it had a 35 plus age restriction on it. But with the change to the rules, the changes came into effect and that age restriction was removed. So what this couple did, and they were expecting a child, of course, what they did was they put their offer in, they got it accepted, and they were now moving into a building that had no age restrictions. So fast forward to them moving in December, and they get a notice from the Strata for a special general meeting, an SGM, and that's essentially a meeting where a vote takes place on different types of changes, whether it's bylaw changes, whether it's strata levies that are upcoming. That will typically happen at an SGM or an AGM. So they get this notice, and the notice is saying there's going to be a vote to convert this building to a 55 plus building. So they head to the meeting, and at this vote, how it works with the bylaws, if you want to amend or change bylaws, you need a 75% vote amongst the Strata Corporation to have those changes come into an effect. So they go to this meeting, and lo and behold, I don't know the exact percentage, but it was voted in to convert this building to 55 plus. So this owner, again, expecting a child, she raises the question, what happens to me? What happens to my family situation? And in fact, one of the members at the Strata had the audacity to say, you're going to have to sell your unit because you're not going to be complying with the bylaw. So what happens in this scenario now? Because obviously they're expecting a child. If they have a child, that's going to be contravening the bylaw. Are they actually forced to sell? Let me explain how it typically breaks down. So what happens is when there's a bylaw change, for example, this age restriction, anyone who's currently an occupant, any person who's currently an occupant, is exempt from the bylaw. So if there are any children there, if there's anyone below the age of 55 as an occupant, at the time of the bylaw being created, they would be exempt. They are allowed to stay there. Now, where this becomes a much grander issue, and probably too grand for this channel as well, is an unborn baby, a fetus, is not considered a person that would be exempt from this bylaw. Not necessarily something I agree with, but that's basically how it shakes down, is that baby is not, the unborn baby is not an occupant of the unit yet. So when it happens, it would be in contravention of this bylaw. So in terms of does this family now have to sell their unit? They don't. No one can tell them because they're contravening the bylaw that they are forced to sell. And I feel like personally, my personal opinion, that's a very insensitive thing to say to this young family that's obviously concerned about their livelihood and their situation, having just moved into this townhome project and being told that they have to sell. So that is not the case. Essentially, what could happen is they could get fines for contravening the bylaw at that time. So essentially, this family, not knowing what to do, they went to the media and told their story, and that's why and how it's making the rounds around Vancouver right now. So we've learned that to amend a bylaw, you need a 75% or greater vote. We've learned that they can't be kicked out for contravening a bylaw. But what are some things that you should be cognizant of if you're purchasing a unit so you don't end up in this situation? The first thing I would say is with this building in general, the fact that it was already a 35 plus building, and then obviously there was a change in the rules where that restriction got removed. Me personally, if I'm shopping around with my buyers and I see a building that's already already has an age restriction in there, I think it would be very conceivable to think that they would vote towards moving to a 55 plus. So for me personally, that's a red flag. I would see that and suggest to the buyers that, again, that want to start a family, that we look in another direction. So obviously that's something that kind of stands out that you should look for. The other thing that I think we all need to be really cognizant of now is larger stratas, in my opinion. So for example, condo buildings, high-rise towers, etc. They are more safer in these types of scenarios. I'm starting to look towards smaller stratas, which are, say 6 to 10 unit townhomes or up to 12, 15 units. To me, those carry a lot more risk now because a lot of power is given to the Strata Council in terms of getting to that 75% vote. It's a lot easier for a smaller strata to get there. You have to keep in mind there may be 4 or 5 members on the Strata Council. They're often on the same page. They can rally the troops, so to speak, and get other people to agree with whatever change they want to make. And like we've talked about on this channel, switching to a 55 plus doesn't make sense for everyone, and it more often than not doesn't make sense for the value of the unit itself. It can actually decrease the value of the unit. So I think a lot of power is in the hands of these smaller stratas, and I would actually look to a larger strata now as being a little bit safer when it comes to this sort of scenario. Now, that doesn't mean larger stratas are problem-free. It can often be more difficult to make stuff happen because you have so many opposing viewpoints. But again, when it comes down to this issue, I personally would be looking at a larger strata. If my client is an investor, I want to look at a strata that has a lot of investor owners, that's investor friendly. I think it's really, more than ever, it's so important to do due diligence on the strata, the history of how they've been voting and proposing items to take care of, and doing that due diligence before pulling the trigger on anything. Now, in terms of what's going to happen in this scenario that we talked about, this is very tough to say. So BC Housing Minister Ravi Kahlon, he caught wind of this situation. He's suggesting to the strata that they back away and come off of this because, like I mentioned off the top, it's a really grand issue. By the letter of the law, they would be contravening the bylaw by giving birth to this child. And again, my personal opinion on it, it's not something I agree with. I personally feel like whether a baby is breathing external air or they are still inside the womb, I feel like they should have the rights of a person. But again, I understand that's a personal opinion of mine. So this becomes, like I said, a much grander issue. Does this bylaw get changed wording wise to accommodate this type of a scenario? I don't think this is something that's going to be far reaching. I don't think we're going to see a lot of instances of it. It's just really unfortunate how this shook down, and now this couple is in a situation where they need to figure out what their next step might be. So I hope you learned in this video how age restrictions are now becoming a story here in the Vancouver real estate market, how they're actually being amended into the bylaws, and how you can protect yourself if you're shopping around for a condo or a townhome right now. If you did, I'd love it if you could hit the like button, because what that does is it takes this video and it sends it out to more people. And again, if you enjoy this real estate content, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss another video. Lastly, if you're in the Vancouver area and you want help navigating your own real estate situation, perhaps you are looking for a condo or a townhome, you want me to help navigate that situation for you, reach out to me below in the Calendly link. You could also send me an email or shoot me a text. Be more than happy to chat with you one-on-one. But thank you so much for watching this video again and coming back to my channel, and have a wonderful day.